Stress of the semester has you feeling disillusioned, helpless, and exhausted, you might already be experiencing the signs of burnout. Tonight, we're going to be talking all about how you can tell whether or not you are just stressed or physically burnt out. Hello, and welcome back to SheRocks College Live. We had a little bit of a hiatus there for a little bit, but we're back. SheRocks College Live, if this is your first time watching, is a live show that happens almost every Thursday where we bring together college women in their 20s and 30s to talk about what it's really like to be a college student, working and trying to live our best life. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, tonight we're going to talk about burnout, because mental health, exhaustion, stress is probably the number one thing that we hear college students talk about. And I mean, the hardest thing for me while I was trying to navigate college as a first generation low income student, and then later on when I went back to school for nursing as a non-traditional working student, was learning how to redefine college and life success for me. I had to give myself permission while at the same time also extending myself forgiveness for wanting more and also wanting less at any given time throughout the semester, as my life would change, as my circumstances would change. And if you feel like you are not enough, if you're feeling like you just want to quit by the midpoint in the semester, please stay tuned to this episode, because again, I'm going to be talking about burnout, which is often confused with stress and is often caught too late. The thing with college is that from the very point that we are small, we are told that our life journey is to get an education, to go to college. And with that vision or direction for our life, there is also this cloud that has convinced us that there is some ideal level of college student perfection, right? That there's a way that we need to do college, that there's a right way, a wrong way, and something that we need to live up to. And this system, this college system, this college ideal that has been sort of programmed into us, not only expects us to be perfect, but it expects us to be perfect with little to no effort, right? We're supposed to make it look like it's easy, like we're really thriving throughout college, but we're not being given the tools necessary to do so. And what I'm noticing with a lot of college students is that they are telling themselves stories of not being enough. And that happens because the very essence of college requires us to constantly place ourselves in an environment that judges us for how much we know, don't know, how much we can handle, not handle, how much we do or don't do. And throughout the semester, it constantly demands us to answer the question, what makes us worthy to be there? And we have to answer that question and prove our worth over and over again with every quiz, with every exam, with every assignment, with every conversation that we have with professors, with other students, with our parents, with family members who are asking how college is going. And if at any part in your college journey you've been caught up in the trap that many of us have been caught up in, which is trying to prove our worth based off of society's definition of what makes a good college student or what makes your college journey successful, you might have found it really hard to keep up because you're trying to navigate who everyone else is telling you should be as a college woman, what everyone is telling you to do as a college woman, and how everyone is telling you to show up as a college woman. And I know that if you've fallen into this trap, you are overwhelmed, you are emotionally drained, you're feeling defeated maybe because you can't seem to figure out how you're expected to meet the constant demands of home life and college life and work, and also maintain a social life. And if the constant stress, like I said, has reached a point where you are now feeling helpless, you're disillusioned, you're completely exhausted, you might be experiencing what is called burnout. Burnout, I'm going to define it here for you, is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion that is caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It's really important that you pay attention to this definition, because some stress is okay. Actually, some stress is to be expected in life. It's to be expected in college. It's to be expected as part of being a human. Some stress is necessary to keep us alive. But when we are in this constant state of stress, it doesn't ever seem to go away. It puts our system into overdrive and thus causes burnout, or the symptoms of burnout. And again, burnout is very different from stress. Stress is about too much, right? There's too many exams to study for. There's too many pages to read and notes to write. There are too many people to text back and to connect with and to hang out with. There's too much pressure put on me. There's too many responsibilities. With stress, there is still some hope, right? You still have some hope that if you could just arrange things around so that it fit into your schedule, so that you can get it all done, you'll feel better and you'll be okay. Burnout, on the other hand, is a very different experience. Burnout, it's about not enough to give, not enough time, not enough done, not enough to mean something, not enough to change things, not enough for it to matter. Burnout is a feeling. With burnout, there comes a feeling of hopelessness and of helplessness. You can't see the end to it, right? And the damage of burnout is emotional, while the damage of stress is more physical. The damage of burnout is emotional. It's an emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. It's a combination of all three things that make up us as beings. And really, when I think about burnout, right, when I remove the definition and I really think about what the essence of burnout is I really think it's a disconnection from self. It's an effect. Burnout is an effect of doing anything and everything, including disconnecting and disassociating from our own needs, so that we will be worthy of love, connection, recognition. Insert the drug of choice for you, the emotion that you're trying to seek of choice. Burnout is a result of believing that your freedom, your happiness, trust, self-trust, and love come from everything and everyone outside of yourself. That in the only way that you can feel like you are worthy as a human being is if you are keeping up with the Joneses, if you are trying to excessively meet everyone else's needs, in order for them to see that you are somebody, something, someone to look up to, someone to say, well, job well done to. We experience burnout when we are not grounded and rooted in self. Burnout happens because we disassociate. We disconnect from our personal needs, our values, our personal goals without outside influence. So what I want to do now is I want to talk a little bit about the factors that create the perfect burnout cocktail, right? So some of the factors that can contribute to burnout, and I'm just pulling out my notes here. So there are two sets. There are internal factors, right? So factors that are coming from within us. And then there are external factors. So things that are happening to us that we don't necessarily have control over. So the internal factors that aid to the perfect burnout cocktail, a perfect scenario for burnout to start happening, is having unrealistic or high expectations. So unrealistic or high expectations. And it's important to know that these unrealistic and high expectations are often coming from what everyone else expects of us. Usually it's not from us, it's from what we've been programmed that we need to be, do, and have in order to be worthy. The second internal factor is a need to be recognized, to be seen as the really good student, to be seen as the smart one, to be seen as the one that always participates and does a good job. The third internal factor is suppressing our own needs to please everyone else. So because we are dying for connection, for love, to be seen, to be recognized, to be heard, often what we do is that we start chasing after goals and we start chasing after things that other people want for us. And because we want them to think of us as in a certain light, or because we want them to be proud of us, or we want their respect, often we will chase what they want for us instead of really listening to ourselves and tapping into what is best for us. The fourth internal factor is seeing accomplishing things or getting things done as the only meaningful activity in your life. You begin to identify yourself with being a college student and getting things done. Your whole identity is rooted in how productive you are and in the grades it is that you get. So those are the internal factors that contribute to this perfect burnout cocktail that I'm talking about. External factors that aid to this cocktail are high demands of quizzes, exams, reading assignments, presentations, extracurricular activities. Time pressure, feeling like there isn't enough time. A lack of freedom to make decisions, which I think is super prevalent in the college environment, because really the only thing that we have control over is our schedule, is our major. But the way that the college structure is organized, think about, whether you have a semester system or a quarter system, how many classes you need to complete a major. Often we can feel like we have no control over our education, that we can't increase the pace or decrease the pace if we need it, that we can't give ourselves more time to get through reading assignments. Everything is structured for us. And so we can feel as students that we're out of control of our lives. And so that lack of freedom, that lack of authority and autonomy to make decisions about how we want to live out our college and educational experience can lead to us feeling burnt out. Lack of social support, mental and emotional support on college campuses, a decrease in positive feedback. Think about all of the feedback that we get in college. They all come in the form of grades, and often we don't get the opportunity to hear from professors what we're doing well. We're only meeting with professors when we're failing. We're only meeting with professors when we're not doing well. We're only meeting with professors when we're not progressing. What if, right? I just want you to think about, what if these conversations with professors came with positive feedback and the things that you were doing well? The fact that this is missing in the college environment is aiding to students feeling burnt out. And then there's also a lack of clarity, a lack of purpose of the direction that you're going to go in, how the classes that you're taking tie into the career that you see for yourself. All of these things, these internal and external factors, all contribute to what I'm calling the perfect burnout cocktail. The next thing that I want to go into is the evolution of burnout, because it goes in a cycle, right? It's the thing with burnout, the dangerous thing with burnout, is that often we don't realize that we're burnt out until it's too late. It's so sneaky because it can mask itself as stress. It can mask itself as being overtired. It can mask itself as getting sick, just because everyone else is getting sick. And so you have to be hyper aware of not only the cycle of burnout, but the symptoms, so that you can identify it and start making the changes necessary to prevent yourself or prevent yourself from experiencing burnout and or recover from it if you already are in a state of burnout. So, the cycle of burnout goes like this. So this is a progression of it. And I want you, if you are here live with me or if you're watching this recording later on, in the comments, let me know if this cycle is something that you found yourself in. So what first happens, right, in the cycle of burnout is that we get into college and we have all of these high expectations. We have all of these unrealistic expectations based off of what society is telling us that college should be like, based off of what our friends are pretending that college is like, because we're all trying to make it seem like we got our shit together, right? Based off of what our parents are expecting from us. And then we also have this ambition to succeed and to do well so that we can have a good career and make decent money and live an incredible life, right? So we go into college with these high expectations. And then what happens is that we push ourselves to the extreme out of fear of not living up to those expectations. So these high expectations exist. We go into college with them, and then we push ourselves and overwork ourselves and kill ourselves so that we won't fall short of those expectations. What happens in the process of us pushing ourselves is that we begin to neglect our own needs to meet the needs of others, living up to the expectations of our parents, of professors, of society. And then we start to blame the school that we're in. These professors are giving us way too much work. You know, it's unfair that I have to work while I'm in college. If I just had to go to college, things would be different. And so we start to place the power of taking control of ourselves outside of us. We start to blame our circumstances and the environment for how we're feeling. And then we find that there's no time for anything but college. College is sucking up every ounce of free time that we have. And so we blame some more. We blame the college environment some more. And what happens after that period going on for a while is that we start to withdraw from society. We no longer seek out connection with people. We become hermits. We stay indoors more. We withdraw not only from ourselves, but from the support systems and the help that is there for us. And we no longer recognize ourselves because our behaviors have changed. We're using these ineffective behaviors to meet our needs. So we become, we start to label ourselves as procrastinators and people who are indecisive. And we start lashing out at people and being angry, more angry than we've been in the past, or crying all the time. And we don't recognize who we've become. And so because of that, we're disconnected from ourselves, or we're disassociated from ourselves. And that leads to a numbness and anxiety, paranoia. We're constantly worried. We can't get out of this worry environment. We can't trust ourselves. And we begin to lose interest in being in college. Our major doesn't make sense anymore. College doesn't make sense anymore. You can't even remember why you enrolled, why you're doing this to yourself. And if we're not careful, that lack of interest, that lack of motivation can sometimes lead to depression. And our bodies can begin to shut down, and we can experience collapse or exhaustion. And that's like the worst of the worst thing that can happen in this burnout cycle. But that's how it kind of plays out. And like I said, it's very sneaky and it's a gradual process, which is why it's really important that you start to recognize what these signs and symptoms of burnout are, so that as a student, you can begin to start building in routines, systems, values for yourself, new goals for yourself that help to support the person that you want to become and allow you to go through college with as much ease as possible, because you cannot eliminate stress entirely. But when you have these systems, these routines, these goals in place, what it allows you to do is to cope with stress on a higher level. You're able to deal with things better. You're able to navigate and move through these periods of stress. And this is what I work with students on heavily inside of my program Study School, which is going to be opening in a few weeks. We really start to redefine college and life success for us, and we start to build out our goals, we start to build out our study systems, we start to build out our schedules, our free time, the way that we engage with professors in our coursework and our college in general, to create a college experience that feels like our own, where we're not having to put our life on hold while we're in college. You get to live, experience, and feel every amazing part of your life outside of college while you're also earning amazing grades. So let's talk about what these symptoms of burnout are, so that if you're sitting there and you've identified with anything that I talked about, you can really start to see whether or not you are getting to the point of burnout, you have found yourself in burnout in the past, or you're in a state of burnout now. And so I'm breaking up these symptoms into emotional and mental signs, physical signs, and then behavioral signs. So if you can identify with any of these signs, you might be burnt out or on the verge of burning out. So some of the emotional and mental signs of burnout are a constant sense of failure or self-doubt, this paranoia that you're doing everything wrong, you can't get anything right, people are going to find out that you're not meant to be here, that you're not, this amazing person that you've been portraying to be. You have a loss of motivation. You're dissatisfied with everything. You can't find joy in anything. You're lacking a feeling of accomplishment, even though you're getting things done, but it never feels like it's enough, and you're overthinking everything. You feel helpless or trapped in your situation, like there's no escape, or you're feeling detached and disconnected from what you're doing and who you are. So those are some emotional and mental signs of burnout. Physical signs of burnout can be constantly getting sick and not really understanding why you keep getting sick. Weird sleep patterns or an inability to sleep. Headaches, stomach issues, constantly feeling tired despite getting 8 hours of sleep, feeling drained or exhausted no matter how much you sleep, or an inability to concentrate. So if you've noticed that your concentration levels have really gone down, that is often a sign of burnout. And some behavioral signs of burnout are making careless mistakes, like forgetting that you have an exam coming up, even though you've written it down in your planner, or missing things, small things that you wouldn't normally miss, constantly forgetting your keys, things like that. Procrastinating, not turning in assignments, withdrawing from your responsibilities, skipping classes, or you're starting to show up late for classes, isolating yourself from others, not attending tutoring or office hours even though you know you need it, using food, drugs, naps, or alcohol to try to cope with the amount of stress, including, sometimes people use Netflix to try to cope with the amount of stress. And if you're finding yourself snapping at others and that's not your typical personality. So based on these signs, one of the things that I want you to do is really rate on a scale of 1 to 10, how burnt out do you feel right now in your college journey, where 1 is I don't feel burnt out at all, and 10 is I feel an immense amount of burnout, or I feel like I've been there already, I'm there right now. In the comments, let me know where you are on that scale. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is helping students to create a college experience that fulfills them and really aids to their life and doesn't take away from their life. I think as students, we can get caught up that any deviation from the status quo means that we're we'll never reach success, right? That we'll get left behind and that other people will get what was meant for us. You weren't born with those beliefs. Someone taught you that. You picked that up somewhere. And all I'm saying with this video is, if at any point you've ever felt like you were not enough in your higher ed journey, you're not alone. And I promise you that you do not need another video on how to create the perfect study schedule. You don't need another planner. Even though I sell planners, you don't need another planner. That is not going to solve your problem. You don't need another app to help you stop procrastinating. That is not the problem. You don't need anything outside of yourself to feel like you have your life together. What you really need is to reclaim what it means to be smart, what it means to be a good student, and what it means to be brilliant and successful without external influence. You need to define that for yourself. And when you begin to define it for yourself, your life is going to change. But I'm going to go into this in more detail on how we can start reclaiming what it means to be smart, brilliant, successful as college students. How to get past the feeling of not being enough in next week's video. In this video, I really just wanted to lay down the foundation so that you can get a sense of what it's like to be burnt out, to be creeping up towards burnout. That's why I shared that cycle of what burnout can look like. And so that you can start paying attention to the triggers and the warning signs and the factors that can contribute to that perfect burnout cocktail that I talked about. So that you, from a place of being grounded in yourself, understanding what your needs are and noticing what expectations aren't yours, can start building your college experience in a way that supports the kind of lifestyle it is that you want to live. And if you're someone who finds themselves constantly procrastinating and you want to know a little bit more about how to start breaking that cycle using the principles that I teach, not only in my program called Study School, but in my work with students one-on-one, then I invite you to go ahead and download my anti-procrastination guide. The link to it is inside of the comments. In it, I talk about the emotional and feeling factors and the real cause of procrastination and how you can start overcoming it and beating it, because I know that there is so much more to you. I know that you have so much potential inside of you, and I want to help you step into your brilliance. And in that guide, I walk you through the process of starting to identify why you procrastinate, and from there creating a plan for yourself so that no longer is a behavior that you engage in as part of your college journey every semester. So I'm going to take a second to look at the comments to see if anyone had anything to say about what I was talking about tonight. So Kenna was here. She said hi, and so did Marieli. Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So that's it. That brings me to the conclusion of tonight's show. Like I said, next week, I'm going to be diving into how you can get over the feeling of not being good enough, which is really how to overcome and prevent burnout. Until then, I will see you next time. Bye.